Greetings all. Welcome back to the Coptimizer podcast. As I say every time, I've got another exciting guest here, and I mean it every time. So I got Coory Joshlin from Louisiana down in Bayou country. We're going to talk about his inspirational journey into weight loss. And there's for those CrossFitters out there, you're probably familiar with the digital magazine, The Morning Chalk Up. There was recently an article in there, a write-up about Coory from Emily Beers, the writer, and caught my attention. Of course, anytime I read about cops, and especially cops that are doing great things, warms my heart, especially when I see it's something around nutrition, performance, all the stuff that we love to talk about on the Coptimizer podcast. Coory, welcome to the show.
Appreciate it.
So where are you in Louisiana?
South Louisiana. Say South Central, I guess. It's about 10 minutes from Lafayette, about 45 minutes from Baton Rouge, Breaux Bridge, Louisiana.
And he said Lafayette. And that's good because I'm from Lafayette.
Lafayette. Yeah, some people call it Lafayette over here.
Yeah. So you'll be the first the first guest from Lafayette, but not the same Lafayette. And right. when we got on a call last week to chat a little bit, it's kind of funny because I'm a retired chief from Lafayette, Indiana PD, and throughout my whole career, there were oftentimes we would get dispatched to calls. You could always tell if you had a new dispatcher because they would dispatch you to a call on a street that you knew didn't exist in our Lafayette, but we knew it existed in Lafayette, Louisiana. So we're like, hey, dispatch, I think you need to call that person back. Let them know they've got the wrong Louisiana. But it didn't happen that often, but it happened often enough that we knew. Same thing, right. Lafayette, Colorado, Lafayette, California, but I digress.
Yeah.
So how long have you been in law enforcement?
Going on 16 years. I started in 2008. I started in corrections, did that for about 2 years, went to the Post Academy in 2010, went to patrol for about a year and a half, then got into the K-9 division, did that for like 9.5 years. I was a K-9 supervisor. And then I moved to investigations about 2.5 years, I guess.
Right on. What kind of work are you doing now in investigations?
It's pretty much all of the above. We don't have a certain sector, I guess you could say. We all work different cases: homicides, property, persons crime. It's all mixed together, frauds. So we just share the cases that come to us.
You started in 2008, but you did not start as a young man in law enforcement. You
right.
actually came, I believe you told me you were a machinist by trade.
Right.
And that's what you were doing prior to policing. And,
yeah.
And then it's the age-old story, right? You met a girl.
Yeah. Fell in love, moved out here, and the rest is history.
Well, and you're still married to the same girl, right?
Right.
Yeah, okay. Because that could be a different same old story in law enforcement, right?
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, which is, I make light of it. It's not necessarily something to be proud of. It's just, it is a hazard of the profession, though, and shift work. But it's not the only hazard of the profession, and that's really about what we wanted to talk about today. Is kind of really your journey. When I picked up the Morning Chalk Up, can't say I picked it up, but when I opened it up, and I saw the picture of you in your open T-shirt, got your Hey Dudes on, and what really caught me was you're standing in the section of cognac. So yeah. in that picture that they put online, but your story, it caught the attention of this writer from the Morning Chalk Up. Tell us a little bit about how that happened.
I commented on a YouTube video, and she has seen a video, so she reached out to me by email, and so I emailed her back, and we did like a online a phone interview. It was about, I guess, about an hour, and she just kind of asked me some questions, what made me decide to get into CrossFit, this and that, and I told her everything, from the beginning, and she felt that it'd be a good article, so she released it and went from there.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad she did, and I have to agree. I do think it was a great article. So in that, it says we might have skipped ahead a little bit, but you're not a small man, right? 6'4",
No.
6'4", and it says in the article you hit 419 pounds.
Right. That was I think that's the heaviest I've ever been in my life.
Well, how big were you when you started in policing in 2008? Do you remember?
I guess about 320, 330. I mean, I was still a bigger guy, It's just I guess over the years I just got complacent and just put on the weight.
Well, and that's kind of something I wanted to talk a little bit about, and we chatted somewhat about this on our pre-interview call, but there's a joke that it goes around all the time, the cops and donut thing.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them are funny, you got to admit, but it's not donuts that make cops overweight. So I guess if you ate too many of them, it could sure be a contributing factor, but what I like to really highlight is the educational opportunity that surrounds stories like yours, because getting overweight, gaining 100 pounds, it sounds like you gained about 100 pounds during your policing career. And I'm sure it didn't happen overnight. It was probably one of those things that you start at a weight, you're probably fairly athletic, even for a big guy, probably pretty fit, able to do the things that you need to do in the policing profession. And then you start the job right after you get out of training, and you're in a patrol car and you're working probably. How long did you work the night shift when you started working in patrol?
And it seemed about 2 or 3 years, I would have to guess. Maybe a little bit, maybe a little bit longer than that. For sure, 3 years, consistently nights. And the other new guys, they start up at night. So that's how it goes.
Yeah, I mean, for those of us in the profession, we know that. Yeah. I mean, it's a rare exception when somebody doesn't get pushed to the night shift for a lot of reasons. One, your members of the department that are more senior, that have more seniority, are probably going to get bumped to day shift.
Right.
A more palatable schedule for just overall wellness and disposition. But a lot of patrol officers like to work nights. I was probably one of the weird ones that I always wanted to work nights. I never wanted to work day shift. I just loved the work at night. And it was one thing I started when I was 27. I had been in the military, I'd worked military police, and then in college, I was a bartender and managed a restaurant. So I did a lot of shift work even in college and out of the service. So for me, shift work was just really kind of all I knew. And I've told this story before, but it wasn't until 12, 13 years into working these night shifts where it really caught up with me. And I was pushing 40 years old and, or actually eclipsing 40 years old and still on nights, and married, and then 3 kids, and all their activities. And wow, that's a tough thing.
Right.
So you were working the road, and then you picked up a canine. And that's a lot of responsibility. What kind of dog did you have?
Dutch Shepherd.
Oh, just a straight Shepherd, not a Belgian Malinois, or
no? He was a Dutch Shepherd. It was like a Tiger Stripe Brindle, I guess you could say.
Nice.
He was
Nice.
he was fairly young when I got him. He was, whenever I went through the handler's course, he was a year and a half old. Normally, they start around 2 years old when they try to put him with a handler, but he was about a year and a half. I guess he progressed quicker than the rest. So, then I had him nine and a half years, so, long time.
Well,
He
yeah.
was dual purpose. I'm sorry.
Oh,
He was
nice.
dual purpose. Yeah.
Well, and then where you live down there, you're not far off the I-10 corridor, so I'm sure you guys kept your dogs pretty busy.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
All right, so you spend 9 years working with the dog. You're a canine supervisor, and then you start in investigations. At this point, what was your overall health and wellness like when you went to from canine into investigations? Did you notice a difference at that point?
Oh yeah. I gained a lot of weight. Not where I was when I started CrossFit, but I put on some weight. I just got complacent, like the job, and just like you said, working crazy hours, and a lot of downtime in the units. It just wasn't real active, I guess.
And a lot of times people think that police officers, once they're at work, are very active. And I would say that it can be true in a patrol environment, but really, even there, most of your time is spent getting in a car and driving from point A to point B, getting out of a car, getting back in your car. And we spend a lot of time being sedentary. And
Right.
then on top of that is and I'll just give a high level overview of the physiological processes and what happens to cops. And I think this is where hopefully people that are listening, that are kind of thinking about, well, maybe I should think about getting my blood tested. Maybe I should think about starting an exercise program. Maybe I should start thinking about a nutrition program. If those thoughts are creeping into your mind, the answer is yes. Yes, you should do that. You should do all of the above. Uh, because in policing, depending on which studies you look at, right? Anywhere, the average lifespan of a police officer, of a male police officer, is anywhere from 18 to 23 years below the national average, meaning that we have very early mortality rates. And the number one thing that gets us is cardiovascular disease. And then, and sadly, number two is suicide right now. That's it. It takes more officers every year than felonious gunfire. And for those that think maybe there's no connection there, I want you to rethink that. And there's a lot of really good science. I think the work of Dr. Chris Palmer is, I think, really starting to illuminate what many people have suspected for a while now, that the metabolic disorders that are prevalent, not just in America and in most of Western countries, they're pretty damning. And for those of us that are in law enforcement, there's even added risk factors because of some of these factors. And again, it starts with what we talked about earlier. You're working nights, so now you're working shift work, which means you're working against your natural circadian rhythms. Human beings aren't designed to stay up all night. They're designed to sleep at night. Our physiology does not like it when we mix these things up. But policing is a 24/7 business, right? Unless it's different down there. Do you guys get to go home at 6 p.m. and shut down the police department?
Yeah. Well, investigations we do, not patrols around the clock. So, in my division, yeah, but unless we get called out, but normal days is 4:30, so not too bad.
Yeah, well, we won't even get into that conversation, right? About how detectives don't do anything.
Yeah.
The patrol's the backbone of the police department.
Oh,
They're out there doing all the heavy lifting.
Uh-huh.
I'm sure it's different down there, right?
Yeah. Yeah, not much. much, but
Yeah. So so I think for people, if you've never worked shift work, it's a difficult thing to explain. And when you depending so what quick question, does your agency, your patrol division, they work 12s, 10s, 8-hour shifts? What do they work?
12. It's like a 2-3 split, like 2 days on, off 2 days, 3 days on, off 2 days on, and off 3s. So
Yeah,
yeah,
and I think and
12 hours.
that's pretty consistent, I think, for those agencies that work 12-hour shifts. And um but what people don't necessarily understand is that a 12-hour shift really means a 14-hour commitment at a
Right.
minimum. Unless you're stuck with paperwork, you make a later rest, or you've had a busy shift. A 12-hour shift could easily become a 14, 16, 18-hour shift.
Right.
And now you go get rest and come back. And the reason that is because if it's a typically people work like 5P to 5A, 6P to 6A, 7P to 7A, but you got to get to work early so you can get your gear done. Maybe some agencies, if you're have take-home cars or you're working more rural areas, sometimes people go 1042 right from their driveway, right? They go in service right from their driveway. But most agencies, you're going into your headquarters building, so you got to get there. You got to get geared up. Emotionally, mentally, you change gears from being at home to getting ready to go to work and getting ready for your shift. And that's usually an hour. And then it's generally the same thing when your shift ends. Then you got to make sure all your paperwork is done. You got everything buttoned up before you head home. Because if you don't, your phone will ring in the middle of the day, right?
Where's so and so?
Yeah.
Where's
Yeah.
this report at?
Yeah. Where's the report? Hey, where's this arrest card? All the little things that people just don't think about, but that's one of those things that keeps cops up during the day when they're trying to sleep, or it interrupts their sleep.
Right.
So on top of shift work and working odd or sleeping odd hours, now you're getting interrupted in those odd hours when it's hard enough to sleep as it is.
Right.
So then you think about, okay, well, what does an average patrolman do every night at work? They're not going to have coffee with Mrs. Jones. Maybe sometimes they get to do that. People aren't calling them up and say, hey, come have a visit with me. I just want to tell you how much I appreciate you and how much I love you. It's usually a little bit of a different story. You're running from emergency calls, car accidents, felonies in progress. Your more mundane calls for service. So it's really a roller coaster ride every night. Some nights more than others, but if you're in a busy agency, you could be experiencing 5 to 10 adrenal dumps every night, where your heart rate's up, everything's your emotional state of readiness is elevated. We're talking about your parasympathetic sympathetic nervous system here, but that's a lot of stress on the body. And what does that do? That elevates your cortisol. If you're already tired, or because you're working shift work already. Are you a coffee drinker?
I try not to be.
Oh, that's good. That's good. What about soda?
No, I cut that out. I'm. It's more energy drinks than coffee. So, but I'm trying to stay away from that too. So.
Yeah. Well, energy drinks are the new generation's coffee.
Right.
And oh man, I could talk for an hour just about the dangers of energy drinks. But in short, they're highly caffeinated, generally speaking, and they've got excess amounts of sugar and a lot of chemicals in them. So it's kind of a double whammy. So when you talk about having elevated cortisol levels, which is a physiological response to the stress that your body's going through, your brain screaming for glucose. Yeah, it can create a cascading effect. And all of this to say, because that's why it's easy when you're working, like, you feel hungry a lot. Even when you're not hungry, you feel hungry. It's like you see a food, like you walk through the PD and there's a donut there. You're going to pick it up and eat it. You might be able to walk by it once or twice, but you're not walking by those donuts, 4 or 5 times without picking them up, or the nice cookies that somebody, community member
Mhm.
made, or the candy or something that they sent in. I mean, generally police departments get a lot of support, and it's often
Oh,
in
yeah.
the form of sugary treats.
Hmm. Absolutely right.
So you find yourself at this point, you're well into your career, you're in your early 40s, you're at the heaviest you've been. And what so what's the catalyst for you to recognize that, hey, something's got to change?
Um, I went to the doctor. I had broke out in a rash or something. So I go to my primary physician, and she checks my blood pressure, and it's like through the roof, like at stroke level, and I feel fine. So she's like, "Well, you need to go to the emergency room." So I went, and they got it stabilized and put me on pressure medicine, and then I went did a sleep study test. So I have the CPAP machine and all that. Well, my cardiologist said if I don't change my weight or my diet, whatever, by the time I'm 50, I'm gonna be, I'm gonna have some severe medical issues. And this is maybe a year or two ago. So I was like in my early 40s. So I'm like, that's like 8 years away, I need to do something. So that really, really opened my eyes. And then we have a new sheriff that got elected. He's about to start his second term, but we follow the CALIA accreditation, and so he started this physical assessment. They're gonna start doing once a year, and it's like a certain criteria you have to meet. Not necessarily, I don't think you're gonna suffer any consequences like the first one, but eventually, I think it's gonna be to where if you don't meet the certain criteria by your age and weight or whatever the issue is, So that was another thing that kind of got me going, to try to change some stuff. So
Okay, yeah. And this is a really kind of I think an interesting thing to dig into a little bit, because most people won't know this, but less than 2% of police departments in America have mandatory physical fitness standards. And a lot of police departments don't have mandated annual physical
right,
exams requirements either. And that's been a really good thing, I think, for the last really, maybe it's a byproduct of the 21st Century Policing Initiative. I think it's, a lot of agencies um, just needed a reason to kind of kickstart some of these things, because it's easy to get complacent, especially in an environment where you're having a hard time recruiting. Officers are leaving. I think a lot of administrators right now are nervous about actually creating standards like that might actually force people out the door. So
right.
that's it, because as well as I do, that you definitely have there are mixed feelings inside of law enforcement about whether physical fitness should be mandated or not, and
Right.
if it is, what kind of resources should come along with that. A lot of questions. I don't necessarily want to dive too far into that, but so in your case, it seems like maybe it was a positive in that you you recognize that, hey, I don't know that I could pass one of these assessments right now, or I would probably struggle with this. So I need to take this seriously and start down a path to get into better physical shape. And maybe that was accelerated by the fact that you had an episode with your blood pressure.
Yeah, I believe so.
Did you, just out of curiosity, when you went to the ER, your primary care sees you, she sends you to the ER. Um, was was there any conversations with, and I'm not trying to throw any doctors under the bus or anything like that, but was there any conversations that she had with you about why your blood pressure might be high, what your body composition might, how it might be impacting it, or any types of like discussions about weight loss to avoid or reduce the need for medication?
Not really. I'll be honest. I mean,
Yeah,
um,
it's not uncommon.
right. She didn't really discuss that. More it's more my cardiologist that kind of sat me down and talked to me more in depth with it. But my primary physician, no.
Well, kudos to the cardiologists for saying what need to be said, right? Because
Right.
sometimes people just they don't want to offend, and in doctors' defense too, they get a lot of pushback when they talk about lifestyle interventions as opposed to medical interventions. A pill is easy. You're starting a new workout program. That's work. That takes effort and commitment, and and there's a lot involved there. But so that's good. He said he kind of gives you that come to Jesus talk. You recognize, okay, something's got to change, and now you've got not just your personal health that's at stake here that your cardiologist is warning you about, but now your employment may be at future risk because the new sheriff has come in and say, hey, we're going to do things a little bit differently, and I'm going to ask you guys to complete these fitness assessments. So in your mind, what's going on there? What are you thinking about?
I need to get my stuff together. I mean, well,
like any idea, like where do I start? You having kind of questions like, did the agency have resources in terms of like, hey, we got a gym for you, we got some blood testing, we've got access to nutritionists and exercise physiologists? Is there anything like that going on at the agency, or is it just, hey, we need to get in shape and we're going to test you once a year?
At the time that they started this, we didn't have a gym. But now they built a new enforcement complex, and it does have a full gym in there. And it's pretty nice. So
awesome.
Yeah. So he's trying to make it available for us, I guess you could say, to get in better shape for everybody. So
yeah, that's great. I mean, and that's it's not an easy thing to do. There's a lot of competing needs for resources, and budgets are not limitless, sadly.
right.
Maybe we can get into that at some point, but so you recognize, and I think when we were chatting last week, you said you kind of been off and on hitting the gym and kind of trying to figure it out on your own. What was that experience like?
It was all right at first, but it just became monotonous, doing the same routines, back, chest, legs, whatever, shoulders, whatever. It's just like the same exercises. I kind of got bored with it. So I just stopped going altogether. But I guess around 2018, I dropped some weight. I guess about 60 pounds. I got back down to 330, and then I just stopped going to a commercial gym, I guess you could say, and I gained it all back plus some. So I guess I don't know if I got bored with it. I don't know. I just stopped going.
Well, yeah, for people that don't have a background in exercise science, or maybe not even a strong interest in it, and this is a lot of people, including people that played at a very high level of in athletics, college football players, wrestlers, basketball players. I mean, we get it all in law enforcement, and when you're in college or when you're in that environment, even in an academy type environment, or in the military, you have very structured and regimented programs. So that just becomes a daily expectation of what you're going to do. You don't have to think about what your workout's going to be. Generally, that stuff is programmed for you. And you just do what you're told to do. And so you don't have to think about it a lot. But then once you're outside of that environment, and then no one is forcing you to go work out, but then also nobody's doing the programming for you. Nobody's
Right.
setting it up. Now, when you do get into the gym, you get the gym bros in there that, hey, do this, or hey, take this supplement,
Mm-hmm.
eat this. You got to eat, 1,000 grams of protein, whatever it might be. Everybody's got what works for them, and they want to share it with you, and they want to tell you what you should do. And it can be confusing. It can be a little overwhelming. And at times, quite frankly, it can be a little demotivating.
Yeah.
But so you explained to me, so you were kind of up and down, you had a little bit of a yo-yo there. You're having lunch. I think you said you were having lunch or breakfast one day at work, and you're kind of looking out and you see a CrossFit gym. You maybe tell us that story.
Yeah. So me and a coworker, they have this little I guess you call it a diner in the adjacent town in Broussard. It's closer to St. Martinville where our old office was. So me and a coworker went and to eat lunch. So we sit down and I look out and I see across the street, like directly across the street, they have this big. They have two different businesses there now, but it's a very large like warehouse type building. And the first section of it, it was a CrossFit gym, Old Glory CrossFit. So I was thinking to myself, I was like, man, I didn't realize they had a CrossFit gym there. So we finished our lunch, went back to work, and it stayed on my mind. I kept thinking about it, and I ended up looking into it, and they was offering a on-ramp class. It was like maybe 2 weeks after that, maybe 2 or 3 weeks after I went and seen a gym there. So they was offering an on-ramp class. It was on a Saturday from like 8 to 10 or 8 to 9. I forgot what the hours was. And then after the on-ramp class, they had a like the regular class, regular time class. So we go and there's like 2 or 3 other people in there with me on the on-ramp class. And then we started the actual class, and it started off with a rower. And I remember like sitting on the rower, like everybody sitting on the rower, like, at the same time. And then they cranked the music up like really loud, and all I could do was smile. And we just started working out, and like everybody was, everybody was there, and it was just kind of like I don't know, camaraderie almost, and we did the workout, and, they kind of pumped me up, and just the community aspect of it, that really like, I really enjoyed that, just the guys that go there, the people, and the rest is history. I'm still going.
Yeah,
8 months now, I guess.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. And I think you told me you're down 60 pounds. Maybe we were chatting something like that. Or is that right? Or
it's like 40-ish.
All right. Well, that's great, man. That's awesome. Congrats.
Appreciate it.
So before you go into the CrossFit gym, though, did you know anything about CrossFit? What was your impression about what it was, or what did you have any ideas what to expect?
Yeah, I tried it in the past at 2 different affiliates, like in the same town I live in, and that's back when, like, I don't know how all CrossFit gyms were, but back then, but it was like, okay, you went in there and they kind of threw you to the wolves. You had to learn on your own, and you just had to. And these were like really, really hard, wads. So I was like, man, it's crazy. So I ended up not even. I might have went, a few times, and I stopped going. That was twice, and then but since from then until now, I don't know. It's like it's different, I guess, because like you can scale it down, like the workouts, and I don't remember it being like that the first time I tried it. It's like you had to do the actual workout that they're doing, weights and everything. And so, but now it's like they emphasize that you can scale it down to your capability, So that helps me out a lot too, It keeps me motivated to keep going,
Yeah, that's great. And then I guess maybe this would be the time where I remind the audience that I'm a CrossFit level 2 trainer, and I guess technically I'm still an affiliate manager, but I was an affiliate owner for a long time opened up. I think it was the third CrossFit gym in Indiana back in 2009. And that was mostly just a place for, some of our SWAT guys and a few other people that really wanted to do CrossFit. There were no CrossFit gyms around, so if you wanted to do it, you either had to, you basically had to make a space to do it. But I had gotten introduced to CrossFit back in the 2004 timeframe by another police officer who a guy that joined our SWAT team, and he was just crushing me on the PT test. So I was trying to figure out his cheat code back then. But I digress. So what you just said though is for if any CrossFit affiliate owners wind up listening to this, I think is incredibly important, because we also talked about something else last week. But you tried a couple of gyms, and what you found was you got thrown, quite frankly, thrown to the wolves, and didn't get a good introduction to the methodology of CrossFit. Therefore, number one, it can be very intimidating. But even worse than that, you can injure somebody. And I guess maybe most importantly is you provide a bad experience for someone that's not ready to step into a high level of CrossFit. And I would venture to say that there are very, very few people that can step into a CrossFit gym and hit an RX workout, and then live to tell about it, at least for the week after, because right. As an affiliate owner, you learn real quick, like your young conditioned athletes, like kids coming out like this. I had to contend with this, right? Kids coming out of D1 sports, at Purdue University, and wanting to come in and crush workouts, and not necessarily wanting to scale. Sometimes you get this with members of the military or fellow police officers. The concept of scaling is something that that's not something for me. That's for people that aren't fit, or that's for the wimps. And you find out real quick, you hit a high volume workout, and when you're not used to that, you can do some damage.
Mm-hmm. It's very humbling.
Yeah, and that's interesting as well, because it's sad in a respect that it kind of you got pushed away. Maybe not intentionally. Maybe right. I think a lot of times people have good intentions, and sometimes it's not even affiliate owners, right? Sometimes it's the trainers that are there that day. If they don't give you a good introduction, if they don't make you feel welcome, sometimes, and sometimes, what I tell people, my advice to people is, especially if they're looking at CrossFit, is don't necessarily, if you're new to it, or if you're new to an area, don't necessarily commit long term right away. Go to a gym for a month, and then go to another gym in town. If there's more than one, go to the other one for a month, and just kind of see, where the fit is better, because both of them can be fantastic gyms with great staff, but one's going to make you feel more comfortable than the other. Maybe there's a few police officers, or maybe there's somebody that or maybe you just have you develop a good rapport with the coach that that kind of that makes you feel comfortable in the movement. So that's kind of a cool thing to experience. But the other side of this too is you said you were a little apprehensive about going into the CrossFit gym.
Yeah, I was.
and that's because of those prior experiences, and then maybe also because, hey, I'm over 400 pounds now, and I'm not in the greatest of shape. And
right, yeah, that's exactly why. I think it was more of the I'm way overweight more than my past experiences. I don't know. I just want to try just to see, but I think that was more of the reason. I was kind of scared to go, intimidated, yeah. Like you said. It's very intimidating because most CrossFitters are in pretty good shape. Well, majority of them, anyways. The fire breathers, I guess you could say.
Well, even the ones that look like they're in good shape, they don't start there.
Right.
Yeah, it takes time.
And
like everyone
Yeah.
else.
And they told me that there's a bunch of them there that, they started, barely could do anything, and they just stayed consistent with it. And yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's really cool to hear. And it's that. So what your experience is, and I know a lot of CrossFit coaches will understand where I'm coming from here. Is there's something that we get all the time is people have an interest in CrossFit, maybe because they've seen like the CrossFit Games on ESPN or something like that, or like how everybody else hears about it, right? Because somebody starts doing CrossFit and they love it, and then they start telling everybody, like, how do you know someone does CrossFit? It's the old joke is
Yeah.
because that's all they'll talk about. Um, but there's a reason for that, right? And and we can kind of touch on that, but getting back to my original point is sometimes people feel they need to get in shape before they come into a CrossFit gym. Like, hey, I would hear this a lot. I'm really interested in doing it, but I need to lose a little bit of weight before I start. And I'm like, no, no, no.
Yeah, exactly.
No, you start and we'll help you lose the weight. That's what
Exactly.
we're here for. And here's why, because I was one of these knuckleheads. I was doing CrossFit for over 3 years before I went to get my cert for the first time. And I, just like you, right? I was one of the gym bros, chest and tries, back and buys, you know. I used to run a lot. And so because I ran a lot, I used to skip leg days a lot because leg days would make my lower back hurt when I
Yeah.
ran. So I was always worried about my times on my run, so I wouldn't do legs. And um, yeah, I digress. I could go down a really long rabbit hole here. But in short, the point is that when you go into a CrossFit gym, and it doesn't have to be CrossFit, we're talking about CrossFit right now, but this is why CrossFit gyms are so powerful, is that you have somebody there that can teach you the mechanics of proper movement, and they're going to watch you, and they have programming that's already completed. So all the work's done. All you need to do, and that's you go into the gym, you go to to the on ramp class, which is basically, we call it CrossFit Basics. Some people call it on ramp, where it's an introduction to the movement, so you can understand, not just even the movement, but the environment that you're immersing yourself in, the vernacular. It's kind of like becoming a cop, right? There's people are saying AMRAP and triplets and couplets and wads, and you hear all these things. You're like, what in the hell are they talking about? Like, I don't know, I don't understand any of this, but
Right.
um, but that's what the coach is there for, to guide you through that process. And you mentioned it earlier, right? That the consistency is what's helped you, and that's consistently showing up, but consistently showing up and being consistent with your mechanics is really, that's one of the most important things, mechanics. And then we talk about um, your consistency in the way that you're moving, and then intensity. Intensity is really kind of the last thing. It's kind of like the last little spice that we drop into the workout, and and that can be scaled, universally scalable for anybody. You can be in your 90s and start CrossFit. You can be a teenager. There's ways to scale load and intensity and all that stuff. And then so that's cool. So you get in there, you kind of find a crew. They make you feel comfortable, and so what kind of happens from there?
Um, keep going. uh, well, I started in January, so like, I guess I'm not sure when the open started, but one of the members, he's like, "Hey, you wanna be on the team with me?" I was like, "What you talking about?" So he said, for the open." I was like, "All right." So I did the is it the fundamental, is that's the first step, I think, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I did that, and I mean, I just did it just to, I guess, a scaling point. Because when I go back next year, I'm going to see how much I progressed. I think that's one of the main reasons why I did the open. It was fun. I mean, it was really hard, but I got it done. So yeah, we did the open, and I just grew a bond with these people. Like I go to the 5 a.m. class, so it's pretty much the regular, like the same people that go to that time class. So you grow a bond with these people, and they want to see you succeed. They want to see you better yourself with the movements. If you're doing it wrong, they'll stop you and say, "Hey, no, try it this way." And like there's some stuff I have trouble with. Like one of the members, he a couple of weeks ago, I was having trouble with the dumbbell. I think it's dumbbell deadlifts. So we put a plate on each side of me, like a 45 plate, so I can get the movement down without having to go all the way to the ground. I was having trouble doing that. So it's just like small things like that, like that they help me with, and I really appreciate that. So that kind of makes me want to go more. If I could go twice a day, I would, but I know I wouldn't be able to handle that.
Well, work your way up to that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, yeah, Rome wasn't built in a day. That's the old saying.
Right.
So for those that are not familiar with what we're talking about, the CrossFit Open, most people, I think at this point, know what the CrossFit Games are. And that's the culmination, that's the peak, that's the 1% of the 1%ers.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very, very elite level of athlete that is competing at the highest level of the sport. And for those that don't think it's a sport, sign up at your local CrossFit gym and get involved in the Open next year and see for yourself. But the Open is really kind of like the way I like to tell people, it's kind of like class. It's like class sports in high school. Like the Open is like sectionals. So that's your first round of competition, and you compete either in gyms or you can do it virtually in an online environment. You can record yourself. There's a lot of different ways to do it. Everybody around the world does the same workout. And for the competitive athletes, there's what they call RX. It's prescribed loads and movements that you have to do, and there's judges involved, so you have to meet movement standards. So everybody is doing things consistently across the world. And then the people that score the highest, they might qualify for what's next. Regionals, over the years it's changed a little bit, but they do quarterfinals and semifinals, and then to ultimately qualify for the CrossFit Games. And at every level, right, you're trimming the field, and only the elite pass through. And you don't know what the workouts are until the weekend that you have to do them. So there's no way that you can prepare for them, which is kind of one of CrossFit's mottos: preparing for the unknown and the unknowable. Which is one of the reasons, again, why I've always been a huge advocate for those in law enforcement to really strongly consider finding a CrossFit gym or utilizing the CrossFit methodology to prepare themselves for work. Because just like in policing, and I think it's one of the reasons why I gravitated to it so quickly, and really from my coworker who, he told me this great story, and I'll come back to it, but he told me a great story, that reason why he knew it was working. But the other cool thing about the Open is that they have a lot of different categories. They have age group categories, so you can compete against people that are your own age. And then they have subcategories in there too. So they have for police, fire, EMS, military. There's all kinds of little subcategories. So you find, these different tribes that you get to compete with and against, and just so you can evaluate your performance against that of your peers. And what you mentioned earlier, I wanted to really there's just a single word for it that I think is important, and it's data, right? And in a world, for police officers, we live in a data-driven enforcement world. Everything we do is about data. It's about good information, and your fitness really shouldn't be any different. You should, for whatever workout programming that you're utilizing, you should have a way to quickly understand if it's effective or not effective. And one way to know if it's effective is to measure progress. And that's the one thing that CrossFit does, and does very well, is that you measure your progress. So what Coory was talking about is you did the open this year, and now next year you can go back and can compete and see how you do. But one of the things that you're also able to do with these workouts, and we call them benchmark workouts, is you conduct a workout, and I know if I do a certain exercise at a certain weight and a certain rep scheme, and then I time it. Now I'm under the pressure of the clock, but the time is really just a measurement for how I'm performing. And there's other ways you can measure your performance through total reps and different things. But you can come back 6 months from now and do that same test, and now you can see, well, how did I do on this test? And you can measure progress that way. So it's a little bit more than just like, yeah, my bench, I went from 285 to 295. Sure, you're stronger, but are you fitter? Are you're stronger, but are you going to be able to perform your job better? And that's, are you going to be able to, there's so many different things I could talk about here, but is your fitness improving your quality of life? Does it allow you to get down on the floor and play with your children or your grandchildren? In an emergency, will you have the fitness level to be able to take care of yourself and take care of others, which for police officers, right, that's an important characteristic.
Right.
When people call for the police to show up, they expect someone to come and be able to help. So there's a lot of reasons why we want to make sure that we're doing what we can to maintain physical fitness. But you found a gym that made you feel welcome, and then that welcoming spirit, that camaraderie, that's very helpful in keeping you coming back. And that's and hats off to you. The 5 a.m. class is no joke, right?
Not at all, man.
So tell me. So for people that are listening, that maybe they're thinking, okay, this might be something I'll try. So tell me what a typical day looks like for you now.
I wake up I'm about 25 minutes from my gym from where I live. So I wake up about 3:30, eat a little breakfast, and to get some energy going, leave the house around 4:10, 4:15. I make it over there about 4:45. I'm usually one of the first ones there. Go do my class from 5 to 6. Get ready for work. Go to work for like 7, and go through my day at work. And I told you this last week. I said, if you can go through the gym, and that's the hardest part of the day. If you can make it through that, then everything else will be all right. That's the way I look at it. So,
amen, brother. Amen.
And I try to get to bed early. I'm usually in bed for 8, the way I can get a good night's rest. No later than 8, 7:30, 8. And I usually go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I rest on Thursday, and depending on my schedule, I'll try to make it a Friday and a Saturday. I made it the last 2 Saturdays. We did a hero watch, so that was pretty fun. I really like those a lot. We had a lot of those recently. I really like the hero watch.
Yeah, and for those that aren't listening, so CrossFit has been it's been used in the first responder and military communities since its inception. And one of the things that they do is they when servicemen and women or law enforcement officers or others are killed in the line of duty, oftentimes particularly when they're people that are in the CrossFit community and using the CrossFit methodologies, they'll name workouts after them. And then on these days, there's anniversary dates. Is typically when we do the hero workouts, and there's some really good ones, and it just gives you a little added motivation when you go into the gym, or if it's a day where you're thinking, man, I don't necessarily want to go work out today. There's other things that I would rather do. And then, you've got that hero wad waiting there for you. It's like, this is one of my brothers and sisters that gave everything. I can go give an hour of my best effort in a gym, and honor their sacrifice. And that's a pretty cool, it's a pretty powerful thing.
Yes, indeed. They're tough. They're tough to do, but once you finish them, it's all worth it.
So which hero workout so far is your favorite, or what do you think is the most challenging?
We just did Horton this past Saturday. Last week, I forgot which one it was, but it was 50 reps. It was three different exercises, 50 reps. Then we dropped down to 40, 30, 20, 10. Yeah, that one was tough. I can't remember the name of it right offhand. It slipped my mind, but it took me like 45 minutes to finish it, and I was done after that. Yeah, I was spent, but it was awesome once we finished. And I had a guy, Jody. He goes to afternoon classes, but he was like right next to me. It was kind of like a partner workout, but we started off as partner workout, but like it was synchronized movements. Like, yeah, that move at the same time. But we kind of fell off with each other, just through the workout, and but we both finished it. And he told me the only reason he finished it was because I finished it, and it was like vice versa, like we pushed each other to finish it. It was pretty awesome feeling.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, that Horton is legit. That is a tough workout, and it is one that's normally done with a partner, but it's yeah. I'm looking at it, 9 rounds for time with a partner, 9 bar muscle ups, which can be scaled. A muscle up is a pull up where you press up over the bar into an extended position. 11 clean and jerks at 155 pounds RX for men, 115 for women, then a 50-yard buddy carry. But that one is Chris Horton from Oklahoma died on September 9th, 2011 in Afghanistan. So that's and it's pretty cool too, because they'll talk about the foundations a lot of times that have been formed around these families, and what they raise money for every year. So there's some huge fundraisers that come out of this. And then every year in the CrossFit Games, sometimes you'll see these some of the more popular hero workouts like Murph. I think here.
All right.
I guess while I'm sitting here, I guess I can show you this. This is my my Murph water bottle. So
I haven't done that one yet. I'm working my way up to it though. That one's pretty intense.
Well, I don't know if I've ever told this story publicly or not. I might get myself in trouble, but this was before I got my CrossFit coaching certification, when I was our SWAT team commander. It was December. We trained the NTOA standards for part-time teams. So we train twice a month at our agency. And in December, I think it was 2007, maybe, I had done Murph on my own before, but I had never done it with their team. So we decided, like, hey, our end of year workout was going to be Murph. And we didn't break it up. So for those that don't know, so Murph is a mile run wearing a 20-pound vest. So we did it in our tack gear. And then you do 100 pull-ups, 200 push-ups, 300 squats, and then you finish with a mile run. And back then, there was no segmenting it. Really, the workout was the workout. And for Murph, Lieutenant Michael Patrick Murphy, that was Wednesday. That was like his Wednesday workout. That's what he used to do every Wednesday. But I had our whole team do it, and we only had a couple of pull-up bars in the place where we did it. And so when we were jumping up on those pull-up bars, we were rapping out like big sets right off the bat. And by the time we got into like the 70s and 80s, most of us were down, we're down to singles. And then we did so we did all the pull-ups and then all the push-ups and then all the squats and then the run. And what I didn't know anything about rhabdomyolysis at the time. And I, I learned very quickly there. Now, thankfully, nobody had a bad case, but I think a couple people were probably pretty close. And if we'd have had a call out for a week, in the week's time after that, after making the whole team do that workout, I don't know that it would have. I don't know that we would have been able to respond. We might have had to call like a neighboring agency's team to go handle it for us because everybody was so sore.
Oh
So
yeah.
my point in saying all this is like, yeah, we do some silly things sometimes, but that's where I learned, okay, sometimes you have to scale these things. It's not it's not a cool thing. It really wasn't. I mean, it's funny now. I can laugh about it, but it wasn't funny then. And yeah, you can do some serious damage to your body if you don't scale things appropriately. So for those that are thinking about jumping into CrossFit, do it Coory's way.
Yeah, don't try. Don't overdo it.
So when you go in and you're scaling loads, you're scaling movements, and you're getting good feedback. Like you mentioned that coaches are telling you, hey, you got to fix this, and they're not just telling you, but they're showing you, they're giving you alternatives, and they're explaining to you what you need to do and why you need to do it. I think that's pretty important.
Oh yeah, most definitely. They're actually want me to succeed and not injure myself or do the movement wrong and injure myself. So to make sure I'm doing it right, the way I get the most out of it.
Yeah, the competitive thing, it's interesting. Probably this will be a conversation for another time. We could talk about mirror neurons and stuff like that. But it's interesting when people get into that environment. Most police officers are competitive people, right? They want to do well, and it's easy to get into that environment and push harder than you should. And that's where a good coach is going to tell you, not just not just that you can scale, but that you will scale and you must scale, because you're in it for the long haul. And if you cut corners or you push too hard too early, kind of like what happened to you in your first exposures to CrossFit, where you're working too hard, you're not getting dosed appropriately, you get overstrained, you lose confidence in your ability to be able to complete these workouts, you're sore, you might even be injured or too sore, right? Doesn't do you any good if you go to the gym and then get a great workout in and like, oh man, I crushed that, and now you can't come back for 2 weeks because you can't sit on the toilet or get in and out of your squad car, right?
Yeah, that's how I was at the beginning. I was like, I couldn't get enough of it. I was going 5 days a week. I mean, I wasn't taking no rest days, and it caught up with me. So I kind of cut back. At least I try to take every Thursday off, depending on my schedule, but I try to at least take a day during the week off and then the Sunday,
Well, you also mentioned too, I think when we talk about the schedule and what your day looks like, you're getting up at 4, you're getting ready, you've got a half an hour drive to the gym, you get there early, you get ready, you get these classes are an hour long, and I don't care where you go, it's going to be like clockwork. You're going to be in and out in an hour. That's going to include a really good warm up. It's going to include instruction over what the workout is, some practice most likely on the movements that you're going to be doing, and then probably some skill work or some strength work on top of it. So you're getting a lot in an hour.
Oh yeah, and then stretching afterwards. So they stay on us about that too. Make sure we stretch after the class.
A little post-WOD mobility. And that that's to set your recovery up in the right direction and get you ready. So not only can you go out and now go to work and crush your day, but you can come back tomorrow and crush another workout and be ready to do it again, and reduce your likelihood of having some soft tissue damage or injuring yourself Mobility work is incredibly important.
Right.
So then, you're going. A lot of CrossFit gyms don't have shower facilities. Some do, some don't. So that's another consideration, right? Like you got to get to the work, and you got facilities at your office where you can get showered and get ready for your day.
Right. They in the gym that they built for us at our office, they have a private bathroom. They have a bathroom and then they have another private bathroom with a shower in it. So it works out perfect. And in the morning, that early in the morning, it's usually there's nobody there yet, so I pretty much got to myself.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So now you work, you get home, and then the other thing that you said that is incredibly important that I want everybody, I want to say this a few times. You really focus on trying to get 8 hours of sleep.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
So now we're talking about engineering your day and reverse engineering your day. So if you know you've got to hit the 5 a.m. class, that you know you got to get up at 4. So you go back 8 hours. So you got to be in bed by 8:30, right? That's going to get you your 7.5, 8 hours of sleep. Because that's something that we hear a lot, right? Like, oh, I can't do the early morning class, or I can't do the evening class. There's, it's like anything else. You tell me how you spend your time, and I'll tell you what your priorities are, right? It's
Right.
not what you say that matters. It's where you actually spend the time, and where you do things. So if your health, and I hope that this is, right up there at the highest priority for all officers, is having good health. And so you can not just hire healthy, but be the best cop you can be while you're there, but also retire and enjoy a long life, in your post-policing career. And don't let the stresses of the job, eat you up,
Right.
because they will.
Most
Right?
definitely. Most definitely.
So let's touch on something else real quick. What's your nutrition look like now? Have you made changes to the way that you're eating, or how have you approached that?
I'm trying. I have good days and bad days, but I'm trying. It's hard. I ain't gonna lie. I don't know. Some people can grasp it easy, but that's, to me, that's harder than going to the gym. It's my nutrition. Making sure I'm eating right. Like you said, you see a box of donuts at the office. It's hard to pass by 3 or 4 times without taking one. So yeah. But I'm trying. That's just as important as going to the gym to me. You got to have a good nutritional diet. So,
Well, and here's what we'll give some cheats here, like some things that you can do, or just some suggestions for people that are thinking about this. Again, it comes back to engineering your day, like reverse engineering your day. If, like, what does the perfect day look like for you? And then you build that schedule down to the minute. And it's not an easy thing to do, and you have to give yourself a little bit of grace, especially when you're a cop, right? Because you get called out, you get woken up in the middle of the night. There's always things that are going to interrupt it. But and just like with nutrition, just like your exercise, if you can be 80 to 90% accurate in your goals, if you can stick to them 8 out of 10 times, 9 out of 10 times, even 7 out of 10 times, you're going to make progress. If the faster, the better you stick to it, the faster you'll make progress. But sometimes that's just not realistic, so you have to set some realistic goals for what you're doing. Meal prep, meal planning is really important. So if you think about, if there's someone in the office that always puts Starburst in a dish right next to their computer, or M&Ms, or peanut M&Ms, or there's always cookies down in records, you got to know, like, okay, what are the times a day where I'm going to be really hungry, and how do I avoid putting myself in the position where I'm going to be tempted to eat these things? So the easiest way to avoid it is to bring your own food, or to plan a meal, or have places where you can go and eat at the right times of day for you, for when you know you're probably going to get hungry, when you're going to need to eat. Um, there are a lot of different ways to skin the cat when it comes to nutrition. I'm not dogmatic. Even in my CrossFit coaching days, I'm a firm believer in like the zone diet. I've talked about it in my first episode, kind of how I got down this whole path of performance and wellness. But the paleo diet, I'm a big fan of. The Mediterranean diet, I'm a very big fan of. I'm a big fan of the ketogenic diet, the high fat, low carb nutrition plan for people that do it appropriately. So here's the first thing I say too, especially for people that are your age, that are in your 40s, and I would say for cops in their late 20s and 30s, if you've been on the job for a few years, get a lab test done. Specifically, I would say we call it the police panel. And for anyone that wants to go look at the IACP Wellness Symposium, but I did a presentation there with Dr. Jim Greenwald and Dr. Kevin Gilmartin, and we called it "The Blood Doesn't Lie," and it's why getting a good lab test done when you're starting a nutrition program is really important, because you can identify some important risk factors that generally may go unnoticed, that could cause problems once you start a rigorous exercise program. But once you do that, you can also get a good idea for what type of nutrition plan is going to be beneficial for you. Maybe you'll have to we can talk offline about that, but regardless of what program you do stick with, or what you what you choose to do, it's best just to try to stick it and find some ways to again, to track and measure, so you can see how it's working for you. And again, that's why labs are also very important, because I tell people you get tested on day one, or before you start this, or early in your new program, get tested again at 3 or 6 months to see what your labs look like, and if your nutritional program is the right fit for you, if it's creating problems for you. So those things are important, but
yeah,
have your go-tos for what you're going to eat, and have snacks available to you that are the things that are they're going to help you move you towards your goals, not away from them. And obviously those sugars are all the way around. And then you're probably walking by a couple soda machines in your PD at some point too.
Yeah. Yeah. That's not like sodas aren't, I don't really crave that too much. It's the other stuff, sweets. Yeah, so that's my weakness. But
the best advice I can give to people is never drink your calories, unless it's like a spinach shake or something like that. Don't drink your calories. Drink water. Nothing better for you than water. Black coffee, plain tea, things without any added sugars. Those can all they're all fine. But the other things too, for your schedule too, is to think about energy drinks or caffeine consumption. You don't want to drink caffeine at least 12 hours before your sleep time. So for you, if you're going to bed at 8 o'clock at night, you really don't want to drink caffeine past 8 o'clock in the morning. You really should, because caffeine has, it's got a half-life that it'll extend for anywhere from 10 to 12 hours. And for some people, it can even be a little bit longer, depending on how their body processes it. So, and then you mentioned you already had a sleep study that was kind of got you down this path. So you wear a CPAP machine. The number one health hack that I can tell anybody is 8 hours of good rest every night. I would say it's almost more important than exercise. If you were going to get less than 6 hours of sleep to get up and go to the gym, I would say, you know what? Skip the gym, sleep for an extra hour, and then find somewhere in the day where you can walk for 30 minutes. And then call that a win, especially if you're a patrolman working a 12-hour shift. You can always get out of your squad car and walk around the block a few times. If you did that once an hour, just got out of your car and walk around a block, you'd be amazed at what that would do for you over 6 months.
Yeah.
So, I mean, so overall, I knew this would happen. We'd be going for it'd be easy to just kind of to chat and chat and chat.
Yeah.
Overall, I mean, I think what do you think are the biggest benefits that you've experienced so far since you've adopted this new lifestyle?
My mobility, as far as physical wise, my mobility, I can tell like I can move around a lot better. Even my balance is better, you know. Endurance is way better, you know. Like I don't get short winded as I used to. Mentally, it's helped me tremendously because we had talked about last week. Um, like you told me that it's depression, but I'd get in these moods where I was just kind of down on myself. Like just feel real irritable, didn't really want to talk to anybody. But since I started going to CrossFit, it's like I don't even feel that way anymore. And it's weird, like just by I guess being, you know, how starting, you know, do physical exercise, I guess whatever the case is, CrossFit, you know, it's made me not as, you know, feeling in that mind frame, I guess, you know. I don't feel that depression, I guess you could say, or I don't feel irritable. It's crazy.
Well, you know, I think one of the best ways I've heard it described is like sometimes feel like like a fog has been lifted that they didn't recognize was there. Like
Exactly.
and if you've ever worn glasses, like I wear glasses, I have my contacts in now, but if if you if you go inside, well, you're down there in the bayou country, right? You go inside, outside, into the air conditioning, out into the
Man,
like
glasses
your
fog.
glasses fog up. But if you do that enough without cleaning them, eventually, you know, you don't realize that, man, you're not seeing as well as you used to see, and
Right,
you just settle to what the new norm is, and that becomes that becomes your existence. And then it's like
right.
somebody, man, you clean one eye and you're just like, wow,
Yeah.
I can see again. And that
Uh-huh.
I've had a lot of people that have told me that, like, after about 3 months of CrossFit, it's not just their physical changes that are inspiring them. It's just their overall general disposition and how they feel.
Mhm.
And I'm a huge fan of the Andrew Huberman podcast, Huberman Lab podcast, and a lot of others. I'm kind of a nerd. I read. And Chris Palmer, I mentioned him earlier. He's
Mhm.
doing a lot of work now with nutrition and its impact on psychiatric disorders. And I think what we're confirming now through science is something that we've always suspected, that all of these things are interconnected. And Greg Glassman probably said it best way back in the day, the founder of CrossFit. He has this analogy about, there are generally a couple types of people that come into CrossFit gyms. One is like people that want to look better naked, right? And we would say a little bit of narcissism can go a long way to motivating
Mhm.
somebody to work out in the gym. Or people want to feel better, right? They've hit a point in their life like, hey, look, I need to, I want to be around for my grandkids. I want to be able to, to get through my day without feeling tired, or missing out on opportunities. The FOMO, hashtag FOMO wasn't a thing 20 years ago, but it is now. So he's like, there's a couple approaches, right? You get, and imagine somebody sitting in a rowboat in the middle of a lake, and there's a dock on the shore that they want to row to. If you're the type of person that wants to be able to eat whatever you want, so that's why you come to the gym, so you exercise, he says, put one oar in the water and start rowing. And you row and you'll make some progress, you'll move around, but it's going to take you a long time to get to your destination. And if he says if you're the type of person that doesn't like to exercise at all, so you are very particular or picky about what you eat, he's like, put the other oar in the water. Saying, you're going to have the same issue, just from the opposite end of the spectrum. So, where you create true synergy is through movement and nutrition, because that's the way the body was designed. That's how you optimize your individual performance. And what exercise does and what solid nutrition on top of good exercise will do, it'll help balance your hormones. It'll, through the production of BDNF and other type of hormones. And so that's where it was always my goal when I was in the affiliate, to try to get people to stay for 3 weeks. If we could get people to be there for 3 weeks, then we could get them comfortable with what they were doing in the gym. Like, every day is going to be something different. Every day can be a little bit intimidating, but if we can get you there for 3 weeks, then I'm confident we can keep you there for 3 months. And if we can get you there for 3 months, that's where you start to feel some of that magic. It really won't take 3 months, but at 3 months, if we can keep you there, and this goes really for any good, program that is combining good movement with good nutrition and good sleep habits. That's where you really will see the difference in, what Kevin Gilmartin talks about in emotional survival for law enforcement is your resilience and your ability to combat hypervigilance and the stressors that police officers are going to have to face in their profession. I mean, they're unavoidable. You can't avoid them. So the best you can do is build a good plan to mitigate what those stresses can do and build yourself up so you can weather those storms when they get there, and
Right.
have a good reserve.
Most definitely. And I could tell now, like, going back to my frame of mind, but now if I skip like more than 3 days, I can feel myself getting back into that, that bad, headspace. It's like, no, I need to go to the gym. I typically don't miss more than 3 days, but I could tell if it's been, 3-4 days, and I can feel it. It's weird, but yeah.
Well, I could talk for hours about this. As you're finding out, what advice would you have for another officer that maybe they find themselves overweight, maybe uncomfortable in their skin a little bit, but also nervous about trying to start a new program? I mean, what would be your advice to them?
Go to me typically, but try CrossFit. You can go. They even have like trials where you can go for a week and it don't cost you anything, or find a friend that might do it, and they have buddy days where you can go for 1 day and it don't cost you anything, just to get the experience if you like it or not. But me personally, it's changed my life. I can say that, thus far, physically and mentally. I encourage anybody that's interested in going to do it. Just show up. You don't have to be in shape to do CrossFit. I say that a lot, but it's true, man.
So are you talking about CrossFit all day long with your coworkers now in the office?
Oh yeah, everybody, family, friends.
Good job.
Yeah, I think I'm addicted to it. I would have started younger, but I did start, so I guess that's all that matters.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of things in life where, my dad used to say youth is wasted on the young.
Yeah.
So as we get a little bit wiser, but that's important, right? It's never too late to start. We're all starting somewhere, and we're all on our own paths. So that's, and again, that's and I think that's a lot. It's something that keeps people away from regular gyms. That's why people don't feel comfortable going into global gyms, is because they do feel like they're being judged, and that's, again, the one other thing is that I wanted to mention is that CrossFit gyms generally tend to cost a lot more than a regular gym membership. But this is what I like to tell people: if you go to your regular Globo gym, I'm not going to go so far as to say they don't care if you show up or not, but do they really care if you show up or not if you sign a year-long contract and you're paying 10, 20, $30 a month? does anyone who's there to tell you, or to, is anyone calling you to tell you, hey, you haven't been to the gym for 3 days, where are you at? um Maybe if you sign up with a friend, that that might be about the only accountability that you get. But you mentioned it, you have this crew that you're working out with at 5 a.m. and you guys look forward to seeing each other, and you push each other, you encourage each other, and you have a camaraderie. And in CrossFit, we call that community. It's every gym has its own little community, and it is an accountability partner. So people you can go to a bar and blow $100. You can go to dinner and blow $100. So skip one night at the bar, skip or more, and or cut out a couple of those paid subscriptions that you have on TV, and go find $100-$150. Most CrossFit gyms will do first responder discounts.
Right.
And again, or something similar to that type of environment, where you're going to find that type of environment. And there are other gyms out there now that are kind of modeling some of that. Orange Theory, I think, is another really good one for police officers, because the programming and everything's done. A lot of what's done in there is low impact. There's good intensity in what you can do. So, but you just got to do it, right?
Right.
Just like the T-shirt says, just do it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I went to a conference. I wanted to bring this up too, but I went to a conference in San Antonio for work negotiations, crisis negotiations conference. So I did a drop-in at Mission CrossFit over there. I kind of did some research around, the affiliates that's in that general area where the hotel I was staying. So I found this one and I showed up, and man, they were awesome, man. Like I didn't know none of these people, but they were just like so welcoming, and never seen these people before in my life. It was awesome. Just wanted to share that.
I've actually been there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I hit there when I was down for the first IACP Wellness Symposium was down in San Antonio before they moved it to Miami.
I gotcha.
So yeah, this is another CrossFit thing. Like now when you're traveling or when you're going on vacation, you're like, well, which hotel is closest to the CrossFit gym that I want to go to, because that's where I'm going to book my room.
Right.
Or where am I going to go work out while I'm there? That's really cool. And it's, that's the neat thing about there being, close to 20,000 affiliates worldwide now. It's almost anywhere you go, you can find a gym, and I've never done a walk-in anywhere where I didn't feel like I was welcome. And I've been at this for a long time. So
yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Visit more.
Well, hey, we've been going for 90 minutes now.
Yeah.
I really do appreciate you sharing your story. For those that have no idea what we're talking about, there is a magazine called The Morning Chalk Up. And if you go to themorningchalkup.com, you can see, just do a search on Coory Joshlin, Coory Joshlin, and you'll see his story. And this is a story that I read that fired me up one day, and I jumped on LinkedIn and hit up Coory because I wanted to chat with him about it. Because I always love seeing these kind of success stories where people, and again, regardless of what they're doing, but when they find something that's working, that they're passionate about, that we can share with others, because that is really our mission, right? We want to get people we want to start them healthy. We want to optimize them in that time in between while they're at work, and then hopefully cast off into a long and happy retirement, and not suffer the debilitating illnesses or injuries that can be prevented from a lifestyle change. And
right.
You're on the path, man. You're on the path.
Appreciate it. Appreciate you having me.
Yeah. Any last tips, hints, or words of advice for someone that's thinking about jumping in?
Just show up. Just go. That's all you got to do.
All you got to do.
That's what my all friend, I did.
It's just like Johnny from Point Break. All you got to do is jump.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hey, thanks again. Thanks everybody for listening. I think jump on the Morning Chalk Up, see that story. If you got any questions, hit me up. You can drop the notes in on YouTube or Spotify or anywhere else. And I'm happy, or you can hit me up on LinkedIn, Patrick Flanley on LinkedIn, the Coptimizer podcast. I'm pretty much anywhere where social media is. So I'm happy to help. Until the next time, we'll be 1042. Log into www.performance-protocol and learn more about how to bring this program to your agency and community.